Hi yogis, welcome to our practice for the second limb of yoga, the Niyamas. This practice is focusing on posterior chain strengthening, and it was inspired by the work of Dr. Eirc Goodman, who created foundation training. So check that out if you like this practice. We're going to start out by generously bending the knees and taking an exhale down into a forward fold. Letting your breath slow down there, creating a sense of grounding. Bringing some movement into your neck. You can nod the head front and back, side to side. Just loosen the neck muscles. Let the head hang. Then bringing some movement into the legs, pedaling the legs back and forth. And as the legs pedal, you might find some natural movement in the upper body. Just let that happen. Letting the body move slowly from side to side. As you inhale, come halfway up, line up the spine, making the back very flat, bringing the arms out to your sides. So you have to strongly engage your lower belly. We're starting out with this version. This is a classic halfway up pose in yoga. As you exhale, let yourself drop back down toward the earth. Generously bend the knees. And as you inhale, come up through center line and reach toward the sky. As you exhale, hands come down the center. Drop into your heart. And then here we're going to do some breath work, or really some breath awareness. Starting with the hands placed right onto the sides of the rib cage. So my fingers are resting on top of my lower ribs. And that way I can become very aware of the movement that's happening as I breathe in and out. Feeling that movement and noticing the shape that your rib cage takes. Then I'm going to spread my hands out even farther so that I'm covering the area in between the lower ribs right to the rim of my pelvis. So I want to feel all of that movement that's happening with my breath. So now the thumbs come toward the sides of the body, sliding up right into the armpits, and your fingertips will be facing toward each other. The thumbs are resting right inside your armpit. As you hold this position, create a sense of broadness across the chest by reaching the points of the elbows away from each other. And then we're going to keep the thumbs looped into the armpits, turn the arms so that the elbow points straight forward on both arms. It's like you're lifting your chest up in front of you. Release the thumbs from the armpits, stretch the arms straight up, and take a few breaths like that, feeling the freedom in the rib cage, like you're breathing in all directions. Hands come down to the heart, releasing the hands. We'll come back up to the top of the mat. Establish your strong stance, ground through the feet. Take your inhale, reach the arms straight up toward the sky. As you exhale, come down through center line and drop to the earth. So now we're going to try this different version by rocking our weight back toward the heels, lifting the toes up. You can see where my hips are pretty far behind my heels. Rock back, toes come up, lots of weight into the heels. And then generously bending the knees, coming up through chair pose. Bringing the arms right back by the sides of the body, next to the hips. And then I'm coming back through that half forward fold. Arms are parallel with the body, lining up the neck and the rest of the spine. Generously bend your knees and swing the arms up into a chair. Press the feet into the floor, straightening the body up into mountain. As you exhale, drop the hands down to the heart. Shift your weight onto your left foot, bring your right knee up, step the right leg behind you into a lunge. So we're going to start out with the classic alignment in yoga, which is the knee directly over the ankle. Then taking your arms out to the sides into a T. The fingers are wide, the chest is lifted. Bowing forward, try to bring your spine into a straight line so that it lines up with your back leg. Arms come out to a T, but keep that angle in your spine. Now, if it feels okay on the shoulders, bring your arms up toward your ears. So you have this very long line of energy through the body. Palms come toward the heart, chest lifts up. And then we'll shift forward, slowly lifting the right knee in front of you to challenge your balance. Place the right foot down. Inhale, stretch the arms up. Exhale down toward chair and fold into a forward fold. Come back to that little play back and forth with your balance. Shift your weight back onto your heels, lift your toes, and then shift forward onto the toes and lift the heels. Just rocking back and forth a couple times. Now we'll ground through the feet. Take your inhale, lift up into chair, Utkatasana. Strong pose, push the feet down into the floor, lengthen the body up. The palms come down the center line. Now we'll get ready for the other side. Put your weight onto the right foot, left knee comes up in front. Step the left leg back behind you into a lunge. So again, classic yoga alignment here. I have my front knee directly over my ankle. Arms come out to the sides into a T. Wide fingers. Feel that broad stretch across the chest. Engage the muscles in your upper back. And with your next exhale, angle your spine forward so that it lines up with your back leg. Lining up your neck. Bring your arms out to shoulder height. Re-engage the lower belly and the low back. And then if you'd like to go to the fully extended version, the arms are up by the ears. As you exhale, hands come back down to the heart. Lift the chest up. Shifting your weight to the right foot to step up. Lifting the knee. Let your left foot come back down and rest onto the mat. As you exhale, take a generous knee bend to bring yourself down into a forward fold. Coming back to that fluid back and forth movement. Inhale up halfway. Align the neck, align the spine. Bring the arms along the sides of the body. And then this time we're going to add a different arm movement. We're bending the elbows, keeping the palms facing straight down toward the ground. And feeling this very strongly activate the muscles in your upper back. We're always trying to target these and wake them up. Now straighten the arms, reach back strongly through the fingertips. Drop the arms down from the shoulders and draw just the points of the elbows up toward the sky. But same idea, we're trying to fire up the muscles in the upper back. Now transitioning on an inhale, bring the arms up past your ears. And then back down into the heart. And fold to the ground. In your forward fold, start to shift your weight back toward your heels, lift your toes up, and then again, find your halfway up pose. But this time, bringing slightly more lift into the upper back. We're using those muscles that we just woke up. Keeping the weight back in the heels, going through the same arm position. So first the palms are down toward the floor, bend the elbows up toward the sky. Release the arms down from the shoulders, pull back with the points of the elbows, squeezing in between the shoulder blades. And then the arms come out overhead, right past the ears, but keep your weight back in your heels, keep your toes lifted. feeling lots of work down the back of the body, upper back, lower back, hips. Release the arms, fold down into a forward fold. Let yourself sway from side to side. See what your lower back feels like. Then take a generous knee bend, come up through chair, press into the feet, come up into mountain. Exhale the hands down to your heart. Shifting your weight onto your left foot, bring your right leg back. So this time we're taking a different position in the lunge. You can see my knee is behind my ankle. And this is just going to make my hamstrings and the glutes on the left side work harder. So it's that posterior chain strengthening. Then bringing the forearms together, almost like we were doing a prep for eagle. Inhale, reach up through the fingertips. Exhale, drop the points of the elbows straight down. Working the arms up and down a few times, just like that, but keeping the legs strong and steady. Releasing the arms, angle your chest forward so that the spine and your back leg line up, but keep the alignment in the front knee. And then we're just going to hinge forward and back from the hips. Inhale up, exhale down, keep the legs steady. So after a few reps like that, you're really going to feel strong awareness in the gluteal muscles, and those hip stabilizers. So now keep that angle, and we're going to layer on the arm position. Elbows bend, palms face toward the ground. And then stretch the arms right up overhead past the ears. Bring the hands down to heart center and step back up to the top of the mat. Release the arms down to your sides. And then we'll shift our weight onto the right foot. Step your left leg back into a sturdy lunge. Then bringing the knee so that it's positioned a little bit behind the ankle. Forearms come together, and then we shift the arms up and down. Feeling that work around the shoulders. Trying to keep strong contact between the forearms. Create a little bit of pressure there as the arms go up and down. Now open the arms back, angle your spine so that it lines up with your back leg. We'll take our arm positions here. Bend your elbows, palms stay facing toward the ground, squeeze the shoulder blades back. As you come up, we're going to start to hinge forward and back at the hip. Try to keep the legs very still. And just let that movement happen at your hip joint. Hinge forward and come up. Now finding stillness, stretching the arms up past your ears so that we have one long line of energy from the fingertips down to the back heel. Draw your arms into your heart, shift your weight toward your front foot, and step up toward the top of the mat, placing the feet down carefully, grounding yourself into mountain. Spreading the fingers, coming in towards center line. Okay, so now let's shift the right foot back again. We'll take our lunge on the right side with the knee behind the ankle. Interlace the fingers into Yoga Mudra, and we're going to lift the palms up toward the sky. As you come up, there's a slight bend over toward the left. What we're trying to do is target the front of the hip now, the hip flexors, the psoas. Releasing the arms down, stepping back up to the top of the mat, placing your foot down. Back into a neutral stance, and we'll try that on the other side. Lift your left knee, send it back carefully. Get that sturdy lunge position, but with the front knee just slightly behind your ankle. Stretching the fingertips up toward the sky with the palms up. And we're leaning slightly toward the right this time, trying to find that space at the front of the low belly and the front of the left hip. Dropping the arms down, stepping yourself up to the top of the mat. From your neutral stance, we'll bring the hands into the heart. Take an exhale, fold down into a forward bend. Now this forward bend is going to shift the weight back, leaning into the heels, lifting the toes up, and I'm just resting my fingertips on the mat. Just using that to keep my balance, but lots and lots of weight toward the back of the body to fire up that posterior chain. And then as you exhale, come back into your normal forward bend, normal yoga alignment. The weight is even on the foot. Now bringing one knee down and then the other knee down. We'll come into a comfortable seat. So I've come into Virasana, into hero pose. And then the fingers are interlaced, the palms are up toward the sky, just like they were for our lunge. Taking a rotation toward the right and a rotation toward the left. And we'll come back into the center, drop the hands down, interlace the fingers in the same way right behind the back. Drawing the head of the arm bone back, the head of the humerus, so that the shoulder blades can really draw toward each other and you feel good expansion through the chest. Now bring the palms down onto the mat. We'll work our way back toward table. And then we're scooping down toward the mat into a knees, chest, and chin position. Right out onto the belly. So once you find yourself on the belly, tuck your toes underneath. And we're going to practice some prone boat positions. So first the palms are down toward the floor. The head, the shoulders, the arms lift up against gravity. The palms face down toward the ground, and we're slightly drawing the pinky fingers towards center line. As you exhale, take a rest. Inhale, lifting yourself up. And then we go into our next arm position, this time with the elbows bent. Palms are still down toward the ground, but the points of the elbows are going straight up toward the sky. Keeping your breath steady. Exhaling, releasing that down, taking a rest. The hands come right underneath the shoulders so that we can press up through table. And then heading right back into child's pose. Let the hips rest onto the heels. Let the arms rest on the ground. Coming back up into table. And we'll go through a round of cat and cow. But slowly, meticulously rolling through the spine. Lots of awareness on how our spine is moving at this point. Bringing that over into a side-to-side movement, creating some sideways action with the rib cage and the pelvis. And then coming back to center, let the hips drop back onto the heels. Bring the hands back toward the feet. After a moment of rest, coming back up, we're going to grab our block. And if you don't have a block, you can usually use a stack of books instead. But you need some kind of a steady surface. We'll turn around to roll down onto the back. Carefully placing yourself down. We're coming down onto the mat to do some extra work to the hips, and especially to that psoas muscle that we were talking about earlier. Bringing the knees into the chest, using the arms to hug them in. Inhale, stretch the heels up toward the sky. Exhale, knees into chest. Dropping your feet down toward the mat. And then here's where we're going to use our blocks. You're going to take your block, lifting your hips up like you're coming into a bridge, and then placing the block underneath your sacrum. So you have to make sure that the block is low enough that it's actually supporting your pelvis, and it's not putting any pressure on the vertebrae, on the lower back. And then we'll rest there, just letting the hips sink down into the block. Getting comfortable with that feeling of having support. Taking the left leg, and you can stretch it out either halfway or all the way. And the arms extend up overhead, so we have long arms opening up that curve all the way down to the toes. In this position, you may feel some sensation in the front of the hip or deep into the front of the lower belly. Bring the left knee in, placing the foot down. We'll do the same thing with the right leg. You can stretch it out halfway or you can extend it out all the way, depending on how much sensation you can tolerate in this area. Keep your breath slow and steady, working on letting your body release and accept that support from the block. If you're feeling comfortable there and you want to go a little farther, you can straighten your left leg out. So we have both legs out. The front of the body, especially the front of the hips, is very open. Bringing the arms down toward your sides. Bending one knee and then the other knee. Make sure that the block is firmly planted underneath the sacrum. Then we'll bend the knees, pull them in toward the chest, and press the heels straight up to the ceiling. Giving some movement to your feet, wiggling your toes, pointing and flexing your ankles. Letting one foot drop down and then the other foot. We'll press our feet into the ground. Lift your hips up off that block, lowering your pelvis down, and hug the knees in toward the chest. You can rock from side to side, giving gentle movement into the lower back and the hips. And then dropping the feet down, keeping the feet about as wide as your mat and letting the knees windshield wiper from side to side. Bringing the feet back into stillness. We'll get ready for Shavasana. If you have an eye pillow or a blanket or any other props that you like that help you to stay comfortable when you're in corpse pose, you can feel free to use them to really get yourself settled. And giving yourself as much time as you like in stillness.